So today I have the pleasure of talking to Valentine. Please go ahead and introduce yourself and your company.
Thank you. My name is Valentine Smith. I'm the CEO of a company called Comesto. We are an e-commerce platform-based provider of new and innovative food and drinks. We sell exclusively to the on-trade, so that's pubs, restaurants, bars, cafes, sports clubs. And we've been going for, well, it should be 4 years, but the lockdown took a large gap out of that. So in practical terms, we've been trading, just about 18 months now.
Perfect. And yeah, you mentioned the most challenging time, I think, in history for the hospitality industry and trade. How was that at the beginning there? How did you manage to, I suppose, navigate that space?
Yeah, it came at a good time and a bad time, I suppose. We just got our first round of investment in when the lockdown came. So we had Comesto Mark One, where we sort of went out to the industry and we got some great feedback from there. We knew that we needed some investment and that we had to change the model somewhat. So with the investment in, there was always going to be a sort of period of time, sort of 6 months or so, where we were building the bespoke software up, testing the market, getting feedback from clients. And so that was fine. We anticipated that, but the lockdown went a little bit longer than that. So we were ready to go and sort of stamping our feet for a good sort of 10 to 12 months. And I think we had to be realistic too, that when the hospitality industry opened once more, I think you've got to think about those restaurateurs, landlords, chefs, and really the last thing they wanted was to hear from a brand new firm saying, hey, we've got some great new stuff. They just wanted to get the place open, refurb, stock in their old clients back and everything else. So we had a few months before we could start to sort of get real trade in.
Yeah, amazing. Why did you start it? Where did it come from?
It's an interesting one, that. I started my career many years ago as a graduate trainee for Diageo. So obviously, as they were at the time, the world's largest drinks conglomerate. They set me to work with sort of transport departments and logistics and everything else. And after my first sort of 9 months of doing that, they asked me where I wanted to go next, and I said marketing. I was 23 at that time, and they said okay, fine. So I ended up working for both Talisker Whiskey and the Houses of Parliament whiskey blend, and I was enjoying that tremendously. And I would have stayed there for a long time, but the original sort of deal, I suppose, that I was taken on at, the bean counters, started to look at the non-contributory pension that I was getting, and there were quite a few of us there. So I was offered a rather startlingly high redundancy check at the age of 29. And I decided to take that, leave, and start my own agency. So this is a long way round to getting as to why I opened Comesto, but it was a public affairs agency, and but a few of my clients were involved in food and drink, so I sort of took that from my previous job. And I've always had an interest in, although I was in the drinks industry, mainly food. And I suppose I've always had admiration for people who can create either a food item or a drink of any sort from scratch build it up and create something that the market wants. And I've invested a few years back now in a startup cheese brand. Just a young guy who really wanted to make cheese, really wanted to do it in an artisan professional way. That's been and has been still a really rewarding experience for me. So learning from that was just this understanding that the whole market, the wholesale trade and everything else is against these small folks who want to start up their own thing. So I just wanted to create a marketplace that connected artisan producers of food and drink to the markets that they wanted to sell to without them needing to invest in tens of thousands and more. And really, that's where the idea came from.
Amazing, and I can hear the passion and the energy for it there as well. What would you say that your biggest learning has been since starting Comesto?
The biggest learning curve, and what we still have to work around, is particularly the drinks industry. And of course, to a certain extent, I knew that this is a very old-fashioned infrastructure, and it's a really, I mean, it's almost like the Wild West out there. There's a lot of money to be made from drink. There's a lot of power with the big drinks firms. There's a lot of power with the big wholesale firms, and they don't want upstarts to get in and get too much of a sort of a hold there. So we, as a company, if we go out to an independent pub, restaurant or cafe, we're all about the premium stuff. So it's all about the sort of top 10 to 15% of their spend. So if you go to a Tide House with Green King, then they don't have the chance to even spend that. But for independents, it's just introducing them to the nice things to have. But if you, sometimes we'll say, try this wine, it's on the Comesto platform, they love it, they love the price, they love the branding and everything else. Well, you know, Mr. Wine Rep from one of the big wholesale firms will come in, he's selling the cheaper ranges of wine, and we'll see that this new wine is there and he doesn't like it. And so it's that sort of possessiveness, competitive atmosphere there, and so you know they will try and do a deal to try and stop this independent wine being there, or gin, or whatever it might be. But to fight against that, premiumization is something that's with us to stay. If people go out for to have a drink or some food now, there's got to be a good reason why. And taking aside the lunchtime, you know, McD's or Pret or whatever it might be, you know, people want an experience, they want something new. And I think that's what it's all about, and that's not going away, but it's a big old industry to change.
Yeah, and I don't envy you with the challenge there. But what a time and a place to be. And you picked up on something there that we're seeing more and more of at the moment, and that is people are buying experiences.
Yeah.
They want to be entertained. They want to have an experience, whether that's dinner with a really nice wine, or whether that's sort of a day out somewhere with lunch. But it's about the experience, isn't it? And I think COVID realigned us with the value that we take from spending time, you know, and how valuable and precious time is. So,
yeah, and also on top of that, I think it's people just expect more. I mean, one of the first sort of scenarios that we worked with when we were sort of pitching the idea to the people who would become our clients is this sort of, you know, as a couple or a group of friends, you go out for a drink and you go up to a bar and there's somebody there who doesn't drink. So they want a soft drink or a low or whatever it might be. And So, you know, if you say to the pub landlord, and we're pitching this to the pub landlord now, this client comes in, they're a sophisticated bunch. They say, "Oh, what soft drinks have you got? Coca-Cola and Fanta." Well, really? You know, and they're going to think, well, what sort of place is this? They're not putting themselves out, or they fancy a snack to go with those drinks. Well, what have you got? We've got Walker's crisps and KP nuts. Oh, really? Come on, you must be able to do better than that. And people are demanding more, and so it goes on from there.
Yeah, exciting times in the hospitality sector there. What would you say has been one of your greatest successes so far?
Spotting the ready-to-drink cocktail mix market before it came a thing. That is where we make the most of our cash now. And that really is, again, I mean, it's not all good news in some ways, but that's aligned to the lockdown. So post-lockdown, as we all know, in the hospitality industry, you know, staffing is an issue. And people go out, they like to drink cocktails, but so they take a long time to make. It requires a skilled person to make them and make them well. And a few people out there were starting to make ready to drink versions of the standard cocktails, the cosmopolitans, the martinis, and everything else. The market has just become huge. And it's one of those areas where people on the buying side, i.e. pub landlords and chefs, they want to buy quality. Quality gives them a higher margin. And they understand that if you have a cocktail mix, such as some of the cheaper ones you might see on the supermarket shelves, it doesn't taste the same. So it's been an opportunity for 3 or 4 very good, very premium startup firms to come into the market and grow fast, and we've sort of assisted them with that, and it's yeah, it's good.
Fantastic. I do love a good mojito, but it has to
Yeah,
be right.
fully agree. Yes.
So how would you say that you have perhaps changed since launching your business?
Oh, that's a good question. I think there are 2 key learning points that I've sort of got from where we are so far. I've learned to relax a little bit more. Running my own agency previously was very time consuming, and I try and sort of contract the day a bit. I mean, I'm always there on behalf of clients and everything else, but I think, you know, the balance of work life and everything is sort of quite important. And I think I've I've known this for some time. As the second part is that we are very tech based. I understand tech. I've worked in sort of really quite cutting edge environments, but I would regard my core skills as business administration, stroke sales, stroke stakeholder engagement. Um, I've come to understand that I'm not a digital native by any means. And so I've got a good team around me who are about half my age, basically. But they live and breathe that. And without those sort of skill sets there, running a business like Mesto would be tough. You know, it's a different way of doing things now.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, looking back on your journey so far, what 3 words would you use to summarize it?
Well, gosh, that's a tough question to answer. I think, honestly, to sort of counteract what I've just said in some ways, I would say it would be take it seriously. I
No.
think, you know, you have to go and put all your heart and soul into the whole thing. So when I said, it's the long hours culture, all that sort of stuff, I'm trying to direct myself and the team away from that. That's a rather old-fashioned way of doing things, but at the same time, I think what is a constant in the world of work is to always give your best, and yeah.
I love that. Valentine, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate your time, and
Okay.
good luck to your future success.
Thank you very much.